Hey guys, this is Kevin from Ready Made RC. Today I'm here with Will, an RC newbie, and we're going to be showing him how to build the Nano Skyhunter plug and play. What do you think, Will?
Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Alright, let's get started. Alright, so if you purchase the Nano Skyhunter plug and play, this is what you're going to see in the box, with some stickers added in as well. To start the build off, we're going to start on the tail, and then add on the wings, and then install your receiver to your fuselage. Alright, so there's a few different types of glues that you can use to build this plane. One of them is not regular CA. Now the reason for that is that this is very smooth foam. This is actually molded EPP. It's a very shiny surface. CA does not stick well to it. So unless you score it up and sand it, you're not going to want to use regular CA. Another option you can use is foam tack. This takes a little bit longer to set up. It's a little bit stronger in my opinion than hot glue, but for time today we're going to use the old standard hot glue gun. You know how to use one of these?
Yes, I do.
Dangerous?
Very dangerous.
Alright.
2 years of home ec.
Alright. So, it's pretty simple to put the tail together. You've got your servo cable here. You're going to plug it into this, which runs the wire to the front of the fuselage, and you can plug it into your receiver. So that controls your elevator. You've got a slot already cut out of here. Fits in with the mates right up with the horizontal stabilizer. And basically we're going to glue this and then put the connector on top so it's out of the way for landings on grass or any other surface. So I'll start out with that. Just get a nice bead of glue through here. We're going to leave the connector or the wire out to make sure it has enough room to go on top. You'll see it ooze out there. Once that cools, we can smooth it out with our finger. We want to make sure this is nice and hot using a high temp gun, so that way it melts the foam and deforms it a little bit. That's what makes that strong bond. So let this cool for a few seconds here. Make sure it's nice and straight. Looks straight to you?
Looks good to me.
Alright, smooth this out with the finger. Alright, nice finished piece there. We'll do the same thing to the opposite side. It's a little more simple since we don't have to deal with the wire. Nice amount of hot glue. Fill it in there nice. Make sure it's seated all the way. You see a little bit of ooze out there. Straight to you?
Yep, looks straight.
Okay. Nice and square for the other ones. See, we got a little bit too much there. So once that's a little bit cooled off, starting to set in, wipe it off again for a nice smooth finish. Nice hot glue strings everywhere. And there we have the assembled tailpiece. The only thing left to do is to connect the servo wire. Make sure you get your signal and the ground on the same side. And you can put this on here a number of ways. We can go on the bottom and go on the top. If you do go on the bottom, make sure that you put it on this part of the horizontal stabilizer. Otherwise, if it's on this part, the lower section, you can get it caught on the grass. It'll pull apart. So we don't want that. So I'm going to put mine on top. Add a little bit of hot glue and we'll be good. You want to do the glue, Will?
Sure.
Just a nice...
Right on the bottom of the plastic.
Yep. Push that down, let it set. Now, one issue you have right here, you have the, I'm going to fix it here while it's still setting. You had the connector in the way of the elevator, so you don't want to block that. Make sure it has free travel. Okay, now we got the tail piece together. We're going to move on to the wings. Now we don't need the hot glue gun anymore for this. unless you feel like gluing your wings together, which it's optional. You can, if you want to have your wing, if you want to be able to tear it down, you can leave it apart. However, you will still have the tail that's already glued together. So I'm going to shove this in all the way till it stops. You can see inside here there's a release out of the wing that you can see how far in your spar is going. So this should travel the full length, so you don't have to worry about making sure it's exactly halfway in the center like you do on some planes.
Now, will adding glue to the wings add any extra stability?
Possibly. It adds some torsional strength, but with this model plane, you're not really going to see the need for that, in my opinion. Of course, glue is cheap, and if you want to, you can do it. So, there's reliefs cut out of here for the servo wires on top of the spar. It's nice and tight together. And there's your main wing. So, if you look at the bottom, or excuse me, the top of the tail booms, you'll see these little bumps here. These line up with the holes on the wing. They are a little difficult to get lined up when you have hot glue on them, so you need to move quickly. One reference is the top of the wing. You can see that they line up nicely with the bottom. So if you get lost when you're trying to get this to set in quickly, you can follow the top. Alright, well, I'm going to have you add a good amount of foam, a good amount of hot glue right here. So you can see it lines up like that. You can see the outline of where it would be, right?
Yep. So you just want
a line all the way around this of where this would be touching.
Okay.
So I'll let you do the honors.
Now, do I have to worry about hitting the wires? Will that cause
the wires isn't gonna, no, that's not gonna hurt anything at all. So just get a good amount on both sides as fast as you can, because this is gonna set up. So I'd add it about twice that much. Maybe.
Right.
Keep going.
So you can be literal
all the
with
way
this.
to the edge. Keep going, keep going. One thing you will want to watch out for is the wire coming out of the tail boom. You want to make sure it goes to the inside, because that's where the fuselage is. Okay, that looks good to me. You can see the holes there. We'll line them up. Can you add a little bit towards the nose up here of these?
Sure.
Each
Each one?
Nose. Yeah, each side. Let's go a little more on this side. Excuse me. That looks good.
All right.
So while this is setting up, we want to be looking at the top to make sure it's still lined up. I pushed a little bit over on the side there and made a nice mess, but we can clean it up. That's the beauty of hot glue while it's still hot. So it's still pretty warm. Keep pressing it down until it sets in. I think I can wipe this. Yep. Keep this close together. We don't want it coming apart, so it'll make for a weak bond after it's finished setting up. Almost there. I think that side's good. And this side's good. So now we have a finished tail section here, all in about 5 minutes time. Alright, so we're going to move on to the electronics portion of the build. Today we've chosen to use the cheap Lemon RX along with my DX9. And we're going to start out by binding up the receiver to my radio. So we're going to have the ground on the bottom with the signal on top for the ESC.
Now, does it matter where you plug those in? Like which specific set of pins?
It does matter. There is a specific pin out for each receiver. So
Okay.
a lot of them are different. If you're using an X4R, you've only got 4 channels, and it's a different orientation for the plugs. So you're going to want to refer to your receiver's manual before you start. You don't want to have the motor on a channel that's going to go ballistic when you turn it on. So let's bind this up. I already have the bind plug in place, and my radio is all ready to go. So as you can see, we're in the flashing mode here. The ESC is in standby. I'm going to push bind.
Binding. DSMX 22 milliseconds.
And we're bound.
Bind complete.
The motor has chimed, saying it's now ready to go. And while we're doing this, we're going to check motor direction. So this prop that comes with the Nano Skyhunter is a 6x3, and it needs to turn in this direction in order to produce thrust.
Okay.
So if the motor's going the wrong way, you're going to go backwards. We don't want to do that. So we can look at this here. It is going the wrong way, so it's going to be pushing the plane backwards. So we don't want to do that. We're going to reverse the motor wires. You've got 3 wires here. It doesn't matter which ones you change. You need to change 2 wires. If you change 2 wires, it will change the direction and we'll be going the right way.
Yep.
Change 2 of these plugs here. They're just your typical 3.5mm bullets.
They'll just pop right out.
Pop right out.
Then just switch.
Make sure you don't let go of them. Otherwise you'll lose which ones you took apart.
Alright, so I go there. Alright.
Okay, now we're going to apply throttle. Check which way this is spinning. Okay, it's spinning the correct direction now, the opposite of what it was doing before. So when this spins, it'll produce thrusts in the right direction.
Cool.
Alright, so now that we have that done, we need to move on to the next control surface, which is the ailerons. We're going to go back to the piece we already built, and we have a Y cable that was included with the package. Basically all you need to do with this is take these 2 plugs under the wing. We're going to tie them together with this Y connector. Alright, that's done. So the next slot in on the receiver, I'm going to go ahead and unplug this, is the aileron slot. Again, it's the ground to the bottom. There's your aileron. The next one over is going to be your elevator, which is coming through the wing here on the side. Again, ground to the bottom, plug it in.
Now what do the elevators and ailerons do
Well,
specifically?
ailerons are located here and here on your wings. When you want to turn right, this one needs to move up in order to push this wing down. The opposite side is doing the exact opposite, pushing this way to create a right turn.
Okay.
Same thing with the left side. Put these back down to center. The elevator, which is located right here, controls the pitch of your plane, up and down. If you don't have that, you're going to crash in the ground.
Now what type of battery are we using for this plane?
That's a good question, Will. And we recommend the RMRC Orange Series 1300 3-cell pack. That's 11.1. This motor can actually handle a 4-cell battery, but this ESC is only designed for 2 to 3 cell input. So this pack we found is perfect for the CG. For flight time, we're getting anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes depending on how you fly on this pack. You can go heavier. We have flown at 2200, but like I said earlier, the flight characteristics suffer. You're adding weight to the wings. So we recommend the 1300 pack. Okay, now that we have bound our receiver and we've plugged in all the control surfaces, we need to make sure that they're going the right direction. So before I put the wings on, we need to remove the bind plug, because if I power this up again, it's going to go into the same bind sequence as before, and we won't have any control over our surfaces. So set this aside. We're going to now go ahead and check this system out, make sure we have the correct pin inputs. Power it up with the prop off. We don't want to have any cut fingers here today. Alright, well, let's check out the elevator first. So I'm going to push down on this stick over here, which should go up on the elevator. Because if we go down on here, we want to go up in the air. See that? It's actually going down. It's going down.
Yeah.
So if we're going down on this, it's not what you would think. It's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most pilots like to fly stick down, plane up. So we need to reverse that. While we're here, let's check out the ailerons. If I turn to the right, this should come up. So my stick is going right, that's going up. That's good. That means that the plane wants to bank to the right. We'll try the left here. It's going left. Another thing you want to check for is to make sure that your surfaces are level on the wing. If they are not, you may need to use a screwdriver making sure this is actually 90 degrees. It should be from the factory. If not, this is an easy fix. You will take out this screw here, make sure your control surface is centered, which mine is, put it back on at 90 degrees and reinstall the screw. That will make sure that we have a nice level surface and it's on the correct spline on the servo. Another thing you can do, let's say that this aileron over here is actually a little bit above where it needs to be. So it would require trim from the radio. Rather than doing that, we're going to mechanically remove this extra little space here. So I'm going to pop this connector off. It's simple. Snap that right off. And I'm going to screw it in to bring the control surface down. So we're going to reinstall it again on the third hole, the outermost hole on the control horn. Snap it back together, make sure you hear a click, and we'll check this again. It's a lot better on there. I think we'll get the rest of that with trim because this side is down slightly. Alright, now that we've verified our control surfaces, we need to actually fix the ones that are reversed. So in my radio, the DX9, I need to go into the servo setup, I need to go into the reverse section. The only one I need to reverse is the elevator. So when I click that, make sure it's working right. Look at that, I've got up elevator when I'm pushing down the stick. That's what we want. We'll try it the other way too. Plenty of throw. So, make sure that's reversed. Everything else is correct. Motor we can't reverse on here anyways. And we'll go back into the servo setup and we'll adjust travel. This plane does not need a lot of travel on the elevator. If you have too much travel on the elevator, it can actually stall out the wings by trying to turn over too quickly, and you'll get a snap out. We can show you that later when we go for the maiden flight. So I'm going to reduce the elevator throw to about 80% on my radio. Alright, that looks good to me. Another thing we want to do is change the sub trim on the elevator. It's actually slightly down. We want to go up to get this just barely above level for the maiden flight. So we'll go to about right there. That feels good to me. We could also do the mechanical adjust like I showed you earlier.
Now I noticed you adjusted these mechanically. Why would you do this as opposed to doing it on the radio?
It is a lot easier to do it in the radio. However, you only have so much room in there. And if you are adjusting it in the radio, you are not in the center of where the servo should be. So as I mentioned before, this is 90 degrees up right here. You want this to be flat or flush at 90 degrees. So you would prefer to do it here first for the rough adjustment, and then do your fine adjustment on your radio.
Okay.
So now we're going to go ahead and install the receiver while keeping your wires still plugged in so you don't lose your space. I'm going to shove these in here. I already have the sticky side open on that. Press that down for a nice tight fit. We already know that our motor's going the right direction. We know all the surfaces are correct. I'm going to go ahead and place the wires inside, making sure to not have them on between the fuselage and the wings. So this keys in the nose right here and sits down back here.
Now will hot glue be used to hold this part together?
I wouldn't use hot glue for this.
Okay.
If you want to get back inside there to change your receiver and to maybe add a flight controller, you can't get to it at that point. So I would definitely not recommend gluing the wing to the fuselage. I think that's a bad idea. So, as you can see right here, I have my servo cable between the fuselage and the wing. We can't have that because we've brought the seat down fully. So I'm just going to take a typical tool, something that's not going to hurt the wires, push that in there gently. And there we go, that's pushed in. Let's check this side out. Do we have any wires poking through? It looks like a nice clean cut right there.
Beautiful.
Now we're going to add the 2.5 bolts into the wing. There are two studs inside there that it will seat into.
Those just snap right in. Or do you have
Push
to
it
screw
in until it
on?
stops. Make sure it's nice and level. If it's off to one side, you won't be screwing into the anchor. You'll be screwing into the wood, and it won't do anything. So you can do it finger tight at first. Once that's done, you can go switch over to your ready-made RC 2.5mm tool or your tool of choice and tighten it down all the way. So we'll do both sides first. Finger tight. And tighten down the rest of the way. If you do over tighten this disc will push down into the foam too far and it can start to tear. So once you feel it getting snug and the wing is fully seated, you can stop. Alright, the Nano Skyhunter comes with 4 adapter rings for different size motor shafts. Our shaft is a typical multi-rotor style M5 or 5mm shaft, so it'll fit plenty of different props. Currently I'm running an HQ 4-blade on my setup, which does not overpower the system, but it ships with a 6x3, which is plenty of power for most flying, so we're going to stick with that on this one. Now there's 4 rings. That one is the M5. The other ones won't fit, or they'll be too loose. So we're going to pull this M5 one off of here. Snap that into the bottom of the prop. It won't fit on the top. You can see it seats right inside there. Now, when you install this, make sure the letters of the prop, you'll see a 6x3 here, the shiny side, actually has a little bit of a convex feel to it. The other side is a little bit concave. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So the letters are always going to the front of the plane.
Okay.
That's very important. If you try to take off with them backwards, it's not going to produce much thrust.
Now, what difference would a 3-blade propeller or a 4-blade propeller make on this?
Well, the more blades you add, the more thrust you get. However, you have a decrease in efficiency. So if you want the most efficiency, you should go for the 2-blade prop. You can gain speed by increasing the pitch on this. We have given some room, some leeway, if you're using 3-cell, to add more speed to this plane. However, I think you'll find it's plenty fast as it is with almost unlimited vertical range. Alright, now that we've installed our propeller, it's time to tighten down the prop nut. So, we could use a typical wrench on here. Now, the problem with this is you can break off these tips easily with a lot of pressure from the side like this. We don't want to use this. It does fit, it doesn't fit down to the side. So, what I've grabbed is a scrap linkage from an old airplane. That's the perfect size for this. Any kind of wire you have around the house, any kind of hex tool or an Allen key would be preferred. Just slide into here and tighten it down nice and snug. Make sure your motor is not slipping behind it. If it's slipping and the prop's turning, it's not tight enough. If you can tighten this down and the motor's not spinning behind it, you're good to go. Okay, so now we have Velcro to secure our battery. I typically like to have the rough side on the plane, so that way when you have the soft side on your battery, when you put it in your pocket, all of your lint doesn't stick to it. So I'm going to go ahead and install that. And then on the battery, I'm going to throw it in here loosely so we can find out where our center of gravity is. So, if you look at the bottom of your wings, you'll see 2 small bumps on opposite sides. This little bump indicates where your center of gravity is. When you go for your maiden flight, you're going to want it to balance on those 2 points. So, to check that, we put our fingers on those 2 points and let the plane do what it wants to do. Right now, it's just telling me it's a bit nose heavy. If it was tipping backwards on those points, that means it's tail heavy. So now that I've moved the battery back about an inch or 2 centimeters. When I put my fingers on the holes, it's flying level. That's good center of gravity.
And having Velcro under the battery will be the optimal way to attach it, just because you can adjust it.
It's easy to adjust. You can add a battery strap if you feel so inclined. I've been just fine with doing negative G maneuvers with just Velcro. It's not a heavy battery, so it's not going to fall off there like a larger capacity size would. So I feel comfortable with just Velcro. You may want to add a strap depending on how you fly.
Just all a matter of personal preference.
It definitely is. Okay, now that we have completed the Nano Skyhunter, we're going to make sure all of our control surfaces are still going the right way and everything's ready to go for our maiden flight. So I've already got my radio on. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the plane. Will, I'm going to let you do this.
Okay.
I actually need to pull the battery out because the connector is up there. Put this way, right where the CG was. Have you plugged that in?
Now, what kind of battery connector is this?
This is an XT60.
Okay.
Hang on to the plane,
Good.
make sure everything's okay. Hold it up out of the air for me, tightly. I'm going to make sure that the control surface is going to the right as I turn, back to the left. Everything sounds good, there's no hiccups in the servos. All of my services are free from each other. Check the elevator, it's the correct direction. As I pull down, it goes up. As I push forward, it goes down. Right, left, up, down. That's good to go. I'm going to apply some throttle here. Make sure your fingers are out of the way. Okay. Now, do you feel it pushing you?
Yes, I do.
All right. That's good. I think we're ready to go for our maiden flight. You excited to try it out?
Heck yes.
All right.